Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
Well, we are making our way through this wonderful text, the foundations of Buddhist practice. Today, we will enter into the realm of meditation, and His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, along with two new children, have really worked to try to bring these practices to a Western mind. So we do like to try to read as much of the text as possible and just have some commentaries, explanation, answer questions as we work our way through it. I see a few new faces, so just so that you know, we've been working our way through these volumes of text that will prepare a Westerner to literally go through the whole stages of the path to enlightenment. This has been a project that has been underway for decades, really. And the hope, the aspiration, the intention is that they can provide these teachings in a way that is truly accessible for a Western mind, so that cultural confusions can be clarified and that we can access these precious teachings in ways that are really meaningful for us. So we've already in this text looked at the Buddhist view. We've understood the underlying basis of Buddhist thought. Last week we had a nice discussion on sort of the realms of existence and so forth. We've explored qualities of a teacher and qualities of a student, just really the foundation that they're preparing for us to engage in these teachings on the stages path of enlightenment, also called the Long Rim. So with that very brief introduction, let us bring up the text. I do want to apologize. I have some allergies and I'm a bit congested, so hopefully I'll be able to hear me okay and enunciate properly as best I can. So in this chapter, we're looking at types of meditation. The title is actually the structure, how to structure a meditation session. First part will be on the types of meditation. There's quite a bit of confusion, I think, around the idea of meditation, and a lot of people often will engage in a whole practice without really knowing the purpose of that specific type of meditation. And each meditation is designed for a specific goal or to address a specific affliction. It's really valuable to understand the various types of meditations, the way that we can utilize meditation to really embark upon getting the most out of the types of practices that we're engaged in. So here we go. Our happiness and suffering is directly related. Directly related to the objects our mind focuses on and our thoughts and interpretations of them. A mind habituated to focusing on our own or others' faults, exaggerating them, and angrily complaining about them is an unhappy mind. A mind steeped in seeing others' kindness, appreciating it, and wishing them happiness is a peaceful mind. Mental purification is needed to release destructive mental habits and cultivate beneficial ones. Transformation occurs through familiarizing ourselves with wholesome objects and beneficial perspectives. So just a quick point here, what we attend to becomes well, our reality. What we focus on becomes our experience. And what the mind is drawn to, focuses on, well, that's really going to determine our level of well-being. And if we start to recognize this, we will find pretty valuable paying attention to what we are attending to and how little control we may have over what we attend to. Would you just think about the thoughts that have come to your mind today? How many of them are thoughts you chose to think about versus how many are just, what came up and, now we're thinking about that. So there's this real strong pattern of familiarization and really strong habits around how we think about people or think about events and how we judge and how that picture gets filled in really quickly, very conditioned. So imagine the difference between just consistently having thoughts, show up and us engaging with them versus the ability to consciously choose the thoughts you'd like to attend to. If you think something is meaningful or good qualities you'd like to cultivate, that you can actually choose that on purpose instead of hoping those thoughts might arise at some point. So we're really getting to this idea of training the mind when we think about meditation. Very much our mind has trained us, and now we have an opportunity to really work with our own mind, to train it in a way that's meaningful, productive, and really supports this incredible life that we have available to us. However, an untrained mind, it's going to be a pretty unhappy mind. And so as we think about meditation, we can think literally of mind training, in which we first tame, train, and then ultimately will transcend the mind. And when we talk about meditation, the key point of meditation is to become familiar with. And so that's going to get to this next point that they will speak to. Familiarization occurs in both formal meditation sessions and in the time between sessions when we go about our daily life activities. Because our unsatisfactory experiences in cyclic existence have no break, neither should our efforts to transform our mind and free it from afflictions. As long as we are under the influence of ignorance and karma, it is necessary to make continuous effort on the path and to discipline and transform our mind in both meditation sessions and in break times. One of the big sort of misunderstandings about our meditation practice is, or I would just say, not even just misunderstanding, just an unawareness. Let's start there. Is that what I'm doing when I'm not meditating is a huge part of how I'm going to meditate. So what I do off the cushion has a significant impact on the cushion. And we may not be aware of this, as we work on getting a meditation practice together, as we focus and do our due diligence and preparing, everything just so, engage in some practice, have good instruction. And we may find that over time we don't get very far, or that our meditation isn't really affecting our day-to-day life that much. So the point being made here is we're familiarizing our mind both on this cushion or chair, but we're also familiarizing our mind throughout the day. So if I'm only spending, a bit of time in the morning meditating, and I'm spending 16 hours of the day pretty mindless, just caught up in thoughts, worries, and habits and conditioning, well, there's going to be a big influence even on my meditation practice, let alone my meditation practice isn't really finding its way into how I engage with life. So it's going to be very critical to engage as mindfully as we can throughout the day. As we establish a meditation practice, we're really familiarizing ourselves with attitudes, values, wisdom, things that we are cultivating within ourselves for this path. We're also developing attention. We're training our mind. So as we enter into the day, the point is to continuously check in, continuously remind ourselves. Not just, okay, practice is done, out the door, and unleash the mind on whatever, whatever happens. Could be some trouble. And I'm going to unmute my speaker so I can hear you. So if anyone at any point, would like to ask something or share something, please do. All right. So that was a very brief comment made there, but I think it's something that's of utmost importance to understand, especially when we're off the cushion, that we're engaged in wholesome behavior as much as possible, that we are watching our minds and guarding against reactivity and acting out of anger and so forth. But we can actually set a motivation and intention to engage in our day kindfully, right? Mindfully, with kindness, with some clarity, with some understanding, and maintain that as best we can throughout the day. I like to have little reminders and bring my attention back to this. Okay. So there are several ways of speaking about the various types of meditation. One way is in terms of stabilizing and analytical meditation. So this is usually just a twofold split, the stabilizing and the analytical, or sometimes concentration meditation and analytical meditation. Stabilizing meditation channels the energy of the mind and generates single pointedness, right? So this is the concentration, like shamatha practice. And it's really going to allow us to focus, to have a profound concentration. So it generates single pointedness. It enables the mind to remain on a virtuous object, such as the Buddha, or a neutral object, such as the breath, for as long as we wish to, without distraction or laxity. And it enhances our concentration, samadhi. Concentration brings many benefits. It enables us to investigate objects such as impermanence and emptiness intensely, and to familiarize ourselves with virtuous emotions such as love and compassion without distraction. So this form of meditation, of stabilizing, or shamatha generally, this is the technology of meditation also, that I can train my attention to be single-pointedly on something, to maintain it there, to not lose that focus. And then once I have that technology, that capacity, well, then I can go deeply into whatever it is I'm choosing to meditate on. So typically in the Buddhist tradition, it's taught to first develop this type of concentration practice, the shamatha. And then as that gets more robust, then we can bring in different types of analytical meditation, and will bring a much greater result. Okay. So analytical meditation, big genre here, really, enables us to penetrate and understand an object. Meditation on emptiness cannot be done unless we understand what emptiness is and can identify it correctly. Reasoning is necessary before we can progress to direct non-conceptual perception. So that is a view that we can first, and we do this all the time, right? We talk about this, what is called emptiness, voidness. We seek to recognize what objects are empty of, how they don't exist in the way that we're seeing them. And if we can reflect on this in an analytical nature, if we can understand it at least a little bit with our minds, then it will make a significant difference in terms of really bringing it into our meditation and having a direct experience. So even though it's non-conceptual, we begin with some concepts and a framework. Analytical meditation is also used with other long-room topics, such as a precious human life, death, the qualities of the three jewels, and so forth. Here we contemplate various points the Buddha and the great masters have employed to explain these topics. Reflecting on the points one by one can bring deep, transformative understanding. So this is really key in a long-room structure of teachings. We talk about three wisdoms. The wisdom of hearing and teaching, that's what we're doing right now. So hearing and teaching, we're doing that. But we could read a Dharma book, that would be the same as hearing and teaching. Basically, we're receiving the teaching. First level wisdom. Second piece of wisdom that becomes analyzing that teaching, contemplating that teaching. We can, in a long room type meditation, we pick up something like death or precious human life, whatever that topic is. And then in a meditation session, we can really focus, reflect upon what this is, what is being taught, what is this true? Does it hold up? Does it make sense? What's the outcome of such a thing? And if I'm in meditation, really spending time deeply, maybe on just one verse, and analyzing it, looking deeply at it, looking at the fine points, what will happen generally then is a realization. I really get this. I really understand this. And there's a sensation of that understanding. And then the idea is to rest in that realization. Just let that soak in so it becomes part of your consciousness rather than, something I learned last Tuesday that I don't remember, that I've really gone into this deeply and I meditate on it and it settles in, becomes known. I become familiar with it on a new level. I'm familiar with it not as a topic of conversation, but as a knowing in a way I didn't have, that I feel pretty confident about, the knowing. So these three wisdoms is the way that specifically the tradition I'm trained in, the Galupa, will work through each of these topics. For example, those of you doing the daily morning practice with me, the advice of Lama Tsongkhapa, this opportune physical form is more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. You only gain its light the once, so hard to get, so easily destroyed. It's like a lightning flash in the sky, biggest lightning bolt in the sky. Contemplate this and you will realize all worldly actions are but winnowed chaff, and night day you must extract some essence of this life. those are just 2 verses, and those verses are really highlighting the rare and precious human birth that we have favorable to Dharma practice. And each sentence really unpacks in layers. So having received teachings on those points of a rare and precious human birth favorable to Dharma practice, I don't know, back in 2000, probably 2003, maybe. What's that, 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, I took those 2 verses and I made it a weekend retreat just on those 2 verses. And so that would be a process of this analytical meditation where I, would go line by line. I would sit with that line. And essentially the first one's really setting up the second one. The first verse sets up the second one. And needless to say, 20 years later, that those 2 verses are very much a part of my being. And when I read them in the morning in our daily practice, you'll notice there's some commentary that will come, and it'll be different each day because there's just so many layers to it. And it will be a part of wherever, my current experience is in my lifetime, on this day. So in that sense, there's an opportunity to take a topic, really receive teachings on a topic, analyze it, meditate on it, and get some movement towards realization. And then the idea is that I go into the next topic. So the Lamru, as we go through it, stages the path to enlightenment, is going to have these topics all along the way. And in the old days, they would send a monk or a yogi off and, go meditate on death, go meditate, on this next topic. And they would go away months. And then when they felt they had some direct realization of that, they'd come back, they'd receive direction and receive the next topic. And so in that way, we didn't have just people who could recite text or give a teaching. We really had someone who had some realization, some deep understanding of direct personal experience of that particular topic. So really productive in that way. I'm just going to pause there for a moment and see if anyone had any questions or anything is popping up. I know I've just been going right after it here. If so, go ahead and just dive in. I only see a few faces. So, Greta.
Hey, John. Thank you for everything. I just have a question in regards to different styles of meditation. The more concentrated meditation, I'm just curious, and I'm aware that it depends on the individual to a certain extent, but I'm wondering, how long do you practice the concentrated form of meditation before you progress to the analytical? And if and when you do progress to the analytical, how do you know when to bring it back to the concentrated and the fluctuation of both? Like, how do they interact with each other as your practice progresses?
It's a great question. And there's first 2 ways of understanding this. One is what's the setting and what's the lifestyle we have. So, for example, to really go the full bandwidth of the Buddha's innovation here with combining shamatha with vipassana, with the concentration with the insight, one would technically go and achieve shamatha first, which currently many people are tucked away for a couple of years in silence in a conducive environment, and dedicating their time to that level of samadhi. So achieving shamatha would be the capacity to literally not lose your attention or focus on an object pretty much almost ever, but you can have your attention on demand and you can sit generally without losing an object for at least 4 hours, sometimes for 4 days. So that's, that's pretty high level of practice. And with that level of shamatha, with that degree of samadhi that someone can maintain, that would be the ideal technology to then engage in a vipassana, where then you could direct that level of focus and attention into really exploring the very nature of self, the very nature of phenomenon. And it's really the union of those two that empowered the Buddha for enlightenment. Prior to the Buddha, people achieved those levels of samadhi. They had those experiences of non-dualness and the nature of mind and could sustain it. But they never had that right balance of samadhi with the vipassana. And that was his big innovation. So in an ideal world where we can devote our whole life to this practice and go spend a couple of years, achieve shamatha, and then engage in the vipassana, that'd be great. Probably most of us don't have that opportunity. So then we think, okay, well, what's the next best use of my time? Well, now we're engaged in more of a Lojong mind training practice to really transform our whole day into practice. And so what we teach from our sort of best skillful means that we can utilize is spending some time every day cultivating attention. And then taking that level of attention into our day and using our day as our vipassana practice, our insight. And so in this way, we're really maximizing this life that we have. So what I encourage is everyone, every day having a shamatha practice. And, we normally start people with 24-minute sessions. And that's called a Ghataka. It's a Vedic time measurement, 24-minute sessions. And then continually engaging in that concentration practice every day. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do something else. It means, okay, I'm going to do this no matter what. But I also might want to really engage in this day, and I'm noticing that I can get kind of frustrated, judgmental, and so forth. And so I might do a loving kindness meditation, as well. And then bring that loving kindness into my day. So you could do, a session of shamatha and then a loving kindness. You can also start utilizing these other analytical meditations as well. So it's not that you have to wait. We can, if we did a shamatha practice every day, maybe we even make that our primary practice, do a couple sessions every morning, 24 minutes, take a little break, do another 24. If we could get to a degree where we could actually maintain our concentration through the whole meditation without losing the object, but technically up, up to like even 45 minutes to an hour or so, that would place us at what they call about a stage 3 shamatha practice. And I think at that level, that would, there's 9, but if I could get there, then and that's doable by all of us. That ability, that level of trained mind, then bringing that into some other types of analytical meditation as well, and then maintaining that throughout the day, I think is a really solid practice and can radically transform our experience. So generally, I would say that initially it's really nice to have a really good shamatha practice in the morning and then some teaching to prepare you for the day. So in our morning practice that we do each day, we will really prepare our mind, we'll cultivate our motivation, we'll reflect upon this rare and precious life, we'll meditate shamatha practice, then we'll set an intention, to engage in this day as fully as possible, as mindfully as possible, guarding against non-virtue, cultivating virtue, and so forth. And at that point, it'd be nice to say, okay, here's something I'm working on this week. It might be a verse from the 8 verses of thought transformation. It might be, just a plain practice of patience during the day. And make that become your insight practice, because you're going to spend the majority of your day not in meditation. And then we also say at the end of the day, it's nice to do a review, dedicate all of your merit. And then there's a very short purification meditation that we can practice every night to purify any negativities accumulated. And so that's a pretty rich practice right there. Shamatha, intention setting, a little focus that you're focusing on for the day, and then purification in the evening. So for those of you, Carla, that you talk, just like who don't know, in the community every single day, except Sundays, I record a shorter and a longer morning practice that includes all that. And you can just, pop in on that. We'll hear from Carla and then Nicole.
Regarding the shamatha practice, I don't feel like I've really, like, that has advanced through the years. Like I don't feel like in my formal sitting shamatha practice that I'm any more able to concentrate for any longer period of time than I was when I first started. So I don't know if there's something I'm missing or if I'm misunderstanding what concentration means.
Yeah, so 2 things on that. One way of how do we evaluate our meditation practice, and how do we evaluate our meditation session? So doing a shamatha practice and the kind of lifestyles that we have, and if we're just doing a session or 2 a day, we'll have a tendency to kind of evaluate our practice by how concentrated I am or not. But typically, the yogis will tell you the way you evaluate a session is, did you follow the directions, right? So did I sit properly? Did I sit for the amount of time I said? Did I, focus on something? And when my mind wandered, did I notice that? Did I let go? Did I come back? Now, if you've done all those things, the meditation session nailed it. Now, you've been doing this for a while, but you may notice that maybe the part where you're concentrating has not been, it's substantially different, right? Well, this is where we ask a different question. We evaluate our meditation practice, and that means, okay, during your day out of meditation, do you have more capacity to bring your attention back than you used to? Are you more mindful than you used to be? Are you less reactive than you were? And I lost you on my screen, but hopefully you're still there. And okay, yeah, so then you start noticing, well, I've been doing this practice, my actual focus in my individual sessions doesn't seem much better, but my lifestyle is significantly different. I'm more able to be present more often. I'm distracted less. I'm not caught up in my thoughts the way I used to be. So then there's this other effect. And so when we're doing this practice and we're doing it in this way of our lifestyle, two things are happening. One is I am working on more focus right here, but I'm also noticing when my mind has wandered. And when you notice your mind wander, you become mindful. So you're becoming much more mindful more often. And what's happening in the practice is I'm focused on the breath and I notice my mind has wandered. Well, in between that, right, on the breath and I notice my mind has wandered, all that time in between is unawareness. And that's where most people live much of their life. And then the question I would ask, are you spending less time in unawareness? So generally, with our types of lifestyles, this practice is reducing our time of unawareness. It's helping us be more mindful, knowing where our mind is more often, and then having the capacity to redirect our attention. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, that's definitely been my experience. I noticed the effects of the meditation off the cushion much more strongly than I notice any changes in my formal sitting practice.
Right. So that's all the benefits of this practice. Now you evaluate your practice. So if you wanted to have that more direct capacity to develop that attention beyond our sort of daily sits, then that does require, going away for a week or so, a couple of weeks, doing some more lengthy retreats in a conducive environment where you can really spend some time there. I know we have, I think it was Dusty. Can I use your name, Dusty, as an example? By the way, it's too late. I already did. Okay. So I'm going to assume that's he shared the same kind of question with me, and we talked about the same thing, and he noticed his life is much better. And then he went away for a silent retreat on his own, and he noticed he had the direct experience of dropping in much more deeply to his meditation in that solo meditation retreat. And so that's what'll happen. You're really primed and conditioned. And so if you get a chance to go do, a bit of a retreat, whether it be just even 3 days or a week, you'll notice a greater capacity to have a more focused and stability in your practice.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Which I might mention there's a 3-day silent retreat, 2 years. Just saying. Okay. I thought there was another hand. Was it where'd you go? I think it was Nicole.
It's me. I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me take a peek at the text here and see if we want to go much further. Yeah, well, actually, this is going to kind of lead to some of that answer previously. Both stabilizing and analytical meditation can be done in one meditation session. For example, we reflect on the qualities of our precious human life with analytical meditation, understanding the purpose and rarity of our precious human life. We automatically feel extremely fortunate, like a beggar who has found a jewel. We then concentrate on that feeling with stabilization meditation to integrate the experience in our mind. So that's that letting it soak in, like I had mentioned previously. This enables us to remember the preciousness of our life in the break times and influences the choices we make in life. Similarly, the analytical meditation is employed to refute inherent existence. It leads to a correct understanding of emptiness. We then focus on this absence of inherent existence with stabilizing meditation to accustom our mind to it. So that's kind of that union of stabilizing with wisdom or vipassana type practice. What we do in the morning is a combination of both, and it's generally starting with that rare and precious life, sitting with that, taking some time to reflect upon that, reflecting upon our refuge. And then we'll go for a bit on just straight shamatha. So there's a rich combination between motivation, cultivating bodhicitta, understanding this precious life that we have the opportunity of today, and then combining that with a stabilizing meditation shamatha practice for a while. And then at the end of that, resetting an intention and a motivation for the day. So it's combined in that way. Very rich practice. There's also a really wonderful emphasis, I think, within the Tibetan tradition to prepare to meditate. And so those of you, there's some of you at the Dharma Center there, you're going to see a big altar, and there's water bowls, and water bowls, offerings have been made. There's this beautiful altar. And so we have these preparatory practices where you create this beautiful space. You bring the Buddhist to mind. You make these offerings and some prostrations, and you settle into your posture. And by the time you get to that point of sitting down, your mind is in a very different place than if you were to just sit to meditate. You're bringing to mind the Buddhas, this beautiful space. You might have some flowers. You're thinking about all their good qualities. You think about what a fortunate opportunity this is. We make these beautiful offerings in these water bowls, and they're each blessed, and they're just so apart, just so, and they're placed so nicely. And then when you're ready to meditate, your mind is primed in a very virtuous state, and one of great inspiration usually, and then you meditate. So there's these other aspects to really maintaining the meditation practice and being able to cultivate conditions that can really ripen a practice like that. Now, you may not have a big altar or anything, but, even just a picture of, a teacher of the Dalai Lama or something like that can be very inspiring. Just getting your little setup, comfortable and nice, and taking a moment to remember, just what an incredible opportunity it is to train our minds to be healthy and be able really to just, the word I'm choosing is to repel, a lot of cognitive activity that, can just sweep us away. And this antidote of shamatha is literally an antidote to an obsessive, compulsive, busy mind. And wow, wouldn't it be nice to be free of that? And so then we sit with us really clear motivation of doing this, not just for ourselves, but so that we can be of great benefit to others. And so these are things that will also enrich meditation practice. Yes, Keith?
You got it right, John. It's me. I was just reflecting on, when I've gone to retreats, doing the back-to-back 24-minute shamatha meditations. And, that I notice for myself when I do that back-to-back like that I feel a change in my concentration and a deepening and a more settled. The second one just seems to be an accelerant or something. Can you just speak a little more formally to why that is a beneficial way to practice, and any hints on how to help me get me to do that on my own?
Yeah, good luck on the second part. Yeah, so this also is thing. I'm so glad you brought that up because this also could be a good tip there as well, Carla, for this practice is so when I first trained in meditation, it was 1 hour. It was strict, posture, 1 hour, don't move no matter what, and it doesn't matter if you have snot drooling down your face or anything, and you itch or your knees hurt, you just do that. And that's still taught. I mean, it's still very common. It's usually taught. And there's benefit to that. All these methods that are taught, there is benefit. The downside of that is, yes, my mind will drift. You'll see people nod, they're starting to fall asleep in their posture. It's uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't want to go do it again. But people are committed. I was learning, I was committed. You'll break through that pain at some point. You'll get better at some point. But I have found that is a much longer process than in this lineage, where the emphasis is on comfort and relaxation and quality versus quantity. So sitting in a nice posture, being very comfortable, and doing a 24-minute session instead of an hour, we have this capacity to really develop a good foundation. And it's about quality, not quantity. We're not getting bad habits. We're not drifting too much. We're not, getting caught up in laxity or excitation too much. We're able to, in a 24-minute session, kind of regulate those things and have a good quality foundation, following the directions. And so, as you pointed out, you go back to back to back. What's really nice is 24 minutes, you take a 5-minute stretch break, you sit back down, and you'll notice in general, your second session, it is generally more concentrated. You fall in quicker, you're more prepared. And probably, in my experience, more so than when I was doing an hour, 2 back-to-back 24 with a little stretch break, I would feel like I gained more in the second session. And then, as you know, on those retreats that you're at, sometimes you'll do 3 in a row. And that's actually, I'm going back to the first retreat I ever did personally. It was actually 25-minute sessions. It wasn't this lineage, but it's 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25, you do that for quite a while. And even in one of my first retreats, I noticed significant experiences I'd never noticed before. So great benefit in that. So the second part of your question, isn't it funny how we could go to retreat and do all that, then we go home, and then we don't do all that. And I'll just give you one trick that I do in my own mind sometimes. Is, I'm resistant to meditating, or you don't even have to be resistant. It's just a nice way to do this. Is well, I will pay $1,000. I will travel across the country. I'll go into retreat for them to tell me to do what I'm about to do here. I just saved $1,000 on a lot of travel to sit here in my own room with a nice altar and follow the directions. And what I do is I go, I have everything I've ever sought after right here in front of me. Let's meditate, okay? And guess what? Keep the $1,000 in your bank. And so, because it's fascinating, isn't it? We'll travel, we'll go do this, we'll, spend all that money, and then, basically we're going to meditate. And so
that's a great motivator, John. And the difference for me being at retreat and at home there's all these temptations at home, you
Yeah.
know, in terms of more important things I need to be doing or want to be doing, even. You know, I can easily convince myself of all this stuff I got to get to and want to get to. And so I couldn't possibly do a back-to-back meditation. I mean, you know, that's the rationalization. But I'm going to try the $1,000 trick and see what happens there.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be good. Yeah. Maybe, you know what? Why don't you just put $1,000 in savings and say you're going on retreat?
Every day.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, we'll start doing that.
No.
No.
Yeah. So, you know, but there's all kinds of things where we do remember that, you know, there is nothing more important. You know, what is the benefits of meditation? What's the downside of not meditating? The key is that you don't want it to be an obligation or a burden. And so, but just think about, you know, the fact you're going to possibly die tomorrow and you didn't use this time wisely. That might help as well. Yeah, that's always a go-to for me is, wow, how much time did I waste? Because I have a fantasy that I'll do those double sessions, you know, later. And so that's also a good one. Yes. Okay. Nicole, I'll let you get in here.
Okay, thanks. I've really been enjoying the 53-minute sessions. I'm new, so thank you so much. So the first part of it, I've noticed, I don't know exactly what you call the first part of it, where we're doing the readings and everything. And then the second, the shamatha part after it, I've noticed that silent meditation has been very different from what I've been doing so far. It's been really good. Are you recommending another 24-minute shamatha after that one, if we have time?
You know, if you have time and you're inspired, yes, absolutely. So for those of you again who are unaware, so, you know, as I mentioned, I record two of them, and she mentioned one that's a little over 50 minutes. So that's a combination of some prayer motivation, some reflection, and then about a 20-minute stretch of pure shamatha, and then intention setting. So it's not a whole 53 minutes of shamatha. It's really a fusion of motivation, of prayer, of some reflection on this life that we have, and so forth. A little, you know, the Vipassana in that sense, and then shamatha for 20 minutes, and then a nice intention setting and dedication. And there's a shorter version that's usually around 36 minutes or so.
My other question is why, I'm just curious why 20, why you didn't do the 24 in the shamatha in the morning session? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I do get that question from time to time. Just because I'm trying to do a lot, you know, in this time that we all have in the morning. And the combination of the prayer and the motivation enriches that stretch of 20 minutes, as I think you're probably noticing.
Yeah.
In such a nice way, you know, I think 20 minutes is more than enough.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really enriches it, doesn't it? You just, yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have already cultivated here from our time together. And those of you who care to, you can join in the dedication. It's nice to take a moment to recognize that our time here together has ripples far beyond just these moments. The kindness we bring into the world has an impact. The wisdom we bring into the world has an impact. The cumulative merit of all of us supporting each other and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, being of benefit to others, has ripples beyond our measure. And so let us take a little time to dedicate our time, energy, merited wisdom for the benefit of all sentient beings, that they may be free of suffering, and for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may be able to apply these skillful methods in ways that are productive, meaningful, and allow us to access true liberation so we can be of ultimate benefit to all. If you care to, you can join me in the dedication. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious body mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.